When you hear the name Pablo Escobar, you probably think of unimaginable power, right? Unbelievable violence. Here's a guy who brought an entire nation to its knees and answered to absolutely no one. Except, that's not totally true. There was one person, one man he treated with genuine, unwavering respect. And when you understand who that man was and why, well, it reveals everything about how power really worked in Escobar's world.
I mean, let's just remember who we're talking about here. This wasn't just some run-of-the-mill criminal. Escobar was a force of nature. He built a global drug empire on cocaine, sure, but also on pure fear and intimidation. He bombed buildings, he assassinated politicians, he basically waged war against his own country. Let's be honest, respect for authority wasn't exactly in his vocabulary.
So that's the big question, isn't it? In a world where Escobar was the undisputed king, who could possibly make him pause? Who was the one man he actually looked up to?
Well, the answer is this man right here, Don Fabio Ochoa Restrepo. And on the surface, he was everything Escobar wasn't. He was a calm, distinguished-looking cattle rancher, mostly famous for his prize-winning horses. But in the criminal underworld, everyone, and I mean everyone, including Escobar, called him by a title of deep respect, Don Fabio.
The contrast between these two is it's night and day. You had Escobar, the young gun, right? He was 25 years younger, chasing fame, making noise with just indiscriminate violence. And then you had Don Fabio. He was the elder statesman, he valued discretion, quiet. Where Escobar would use a car bomb, Don Fabio just wielded this calm, almost invisible authority.
So, to the outside world, Don Fabio was the picture of old money respectability. He was a successful businessman, a famous breeder of these beautiful Paso Fino horses, and the revered patriarch of the very powerful Ochoa family. He was a master at being a shadow figure, supporting his sons, who, by the way, co-founded the Medellín Cartel with Escobar, without ever really getting his own hands dirty.
And this is the real key to why Escobar admired him so much. See, Don Fabio represented an older code, an old-school mafia world that was all about family, honor, and strategic silence. It was a completely different universe from the chaotic, public violence that defined Escobar's reign. And for that, Pablo respected him immensely. Now, this mutual respect wasn't just some abstract thing. It became a powerful, very real alliance because of one single dramatic event, a crisis that shook the entire Colombian underworld to its core.
So get this. In November of 1981, the unthinkable happens. A guerrilla group, the M19, kidnaps Don Fabio's youngest daughter, Marta, and demands a huge ransom. Now, this was more than just a crime. This was a direct challenge to the entire narco elite. And the response? It was incredibly swift. Just a few weeks later, the Ochoas, Escobar, and dozens of other top capos held this emergency meeting with one single brutal goal: get Marta back and send a message that would never, ever be forgotten.
And out of that meeting, something truly terrifying was born. MAS, which stands for Muerte a Secuestradores, or Death to Kidnappers. It was essentially a private army funded by all the cartels, with more than 2,000 hitmen ready to hunt down the M19. And Escobar, he was a key supporter, throwing all of his muscle behind the Ochoa family when it mattered most.
So what was the result of this overwhelming show of force? Well, after 92 terrifying days, the guerrillas, they buckled. Marta Ochoa was released, completely unharmed, and the ransom they paid, get this, zero. Not a single peso. Their unified front was way more powerful than any ransom demand.
But you know how it is. Alliances forged in the criminal world are, well, they're fragile. Almost a decade later, a government decision would force a choice that would absolutely shatter the bond between Escobar and the Ochoa clan for good.
So fast forward to 1990, the Colombian president offers a lifeline to the drug traffickers. He says, turn yourselves in and you will not be extradited to the United States. And for these guys, that was a really tempting offer, a chance to serve some time at home instead of facing the American justice system.
And this right here is where you see Don Fabio's true authority. He didn't suggest or ask, he gathered his 3 sons, and remember, these are all powerful, high-ranking cartel bosses in their own right, and he gave them a direct order: surrender. And you know what? Without a moment's hesitation, they obeyed their father.
The Ochoas tried to get their partner, Pablo Escobar, to do the same thing. But Pablo, he flatly refused. No way. For him, surrendering was admitting defeat. He didn't see it as a smart strategic move.
He saw their decision as a deep personal betrayal.
And that was the final breaking point. It was a total clash of ideologies. On one side, you had Don Fabio's quiet pragmatism, which chose preservation. On the other, you had Escobar's defiant ego, which chose war to the bitter end. The powerful alliance that once terrorized the nation was officially over.
And that one single decision set these two titans of the cartel world on radically different paths. Paths that would lead to two profoundly different fates.
I mean, just look at how it all ended. The final contrast is just staggering. Escobar, the man who refused to bend, was hunted down and killed in a rooftop shootout at just 44 years old, a global public enemy #1. And Don Fabio, the quiet patriarch who chose surrender, he died of natural causes at age 77 without ever spending a single day behind bars.
After his sons surrendered, Don Fabio just faded away. He went right back into the life he always claimed was his real one. He returned to his ranches, his family, and his beloved horses. And despite being a central figure in the cartel's creation, he was never convicted of a single crime and died a free, wealthy man.
What you know, it leaves us with this one big lingering question. Escobar's power was loud, it was violent, it was undeniable, but it burned out fast. Don Fabio's power was quiet, discreet, and it was based on some old world code of honor. So, at the end of the day, which one was truly more powerful?